This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Friday, January 30th, 2026. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Yes, there will be a government shutdown on Monday, but perhaps not for long, thanks to a new bipartisan deal. I'm Rich Johnson.
Trump border czar Tom Homan is working toward an eventual drawdown of federal immigration enforcement officers in Minneapolis. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
The man who squirted vinegar on a U.S. representative has been charged. I'm Haya Panjwani.
Fulton County, Georgia, and the 2020 presidential election front and center again. I'm Clayton Neville.
On Wall Street, strong results for Apple after the bell last night. Watch those shares today. Microsoft shares tanked yesterday. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
A Russian man has been convicted in a London court of beating a woman in a crime reported by Baron Trump. Karen Shamas, London.
All ahead on America in the Morning. Drama on Capitol Hill Thursday that ended with a bipartisan agreement on how to keep most of the federal government funded for the rest of the fiscal year. Correspondent Rich Johnson has more on the impasse that turned into an agreement.
Thursday started with an attempt to end debate on the budget bills.
On this vote, the yeas are 45, the nays are 55.
That saw 7 Republicans joining Democrats to block the huge spending package that would fund the government from Monday through the end of September. The roadblock has been money for the Department of Homeland Security and Democrats' attempts to add more oversight to ICE and Border Patrol operations. At the White House, President Trump was watching the Senate developments.
Hopefully we won't have a shutdown. We're working on that right now. I think we're getting close. The Democrats, I don't believe, want to see it either. So we'll work in a very bipartisan way. I believe not to have a shutdown. We don't want a shutdown.
And for the moment, it looks like the president will get his wish. The 6 funding bills are now 5. The DHS portion has been removed from the package. The agency will be separately funded by a short-term continuing resolution lasting about 2 weeks. That will give all concerned more time to negotiate what Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer calls 3 major reforms, inspired by the deaths in Minneapolis.
End the roving patrols. Second, enforce accountability. Third, masks off, body cameras on. Each officer must have visible ID.
Republicans point out that 80% of the DHS bill is not for ICE or the Border Patrol.
It includes, for example, funding for FEMA. We've just gone through a horrific storm that has caused a lot of damage, and FEMA is very important.
That's Maine Republican Susan Collins. Because the deal makes changes to the House-passed funding package, the House will have to vote on the new version. That won't happen until House members return on Monday, meaning the government will be out of money, at least for a few hours. I'm Rich Johnson.
In his first press conference since taking over as President Trump's point person on immigration enforcement in Minneapolis, White House border czar Tom Homan says they're working on a gradual drawdown of officers in Minnesota. Here's correspondent John Stolnis.
While Homan acknowledged enforcement will continue, he says the goal is to reduce the number of ICE and Border Patrol agents in that state.
My main focus now is drawdown. But I take the word of the people I met with. I think they're honest, and I think they're good brokers, that they want public safety protected, and they also want what's happening in the city to go away. And that's my goal.
Homan was sent to Minnesota by the president at the beginning of the week, replacing Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino in leading enforcement efforts.
I didn't come here looking for photo ops or headlines. I come here looking for solutions.
He said moving forward, enforcement will focus on known illegal immigrants who are safety threats to society.
We will conduct targeted enforcement operations. Targeted. When we hit the streets, we know exactly who we're looking for.
Despite Homan acknowledging a desire to draw down forces, President Trump himself was asked Thursday night if they were pulling back.
We want to keep our country safe. We'll do whatever we can to keep our country safe.
So you're not pulling back?
No, not at all.
The administration is reportedly considering new guidelines for federal immigration officers to avoid engaging with so-called agitators and protesters. The guidance comes 1 week after the shooting death of protester Alex Preddy and 3 weeks after Renee Good was shot and killed by ICE officers as she tried to flee in her car. Speaking on Fox News, Noem tried to explain why, just hours after the Preddy shooting, she called him a domestic terrorist when it was clear that wasn't the case.
That situation was very chaotic, and that we were being relayed information from on the ground from CBP agents and officers that were there. We were using the best information we had at the time, seeking to be transparent with the American people.
Homan says the key to any drawdown in Minnesota depends on increased cooperation between county jail systems and immigration authorities, something he hopes to foster during his time there.
We are not surrendering our mission at all. We're just doing smarter.
John Stolnis, Washington.
The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. Enjoy personalized comfort for better sleep night after night. And now, the more you buy, the more you save on beds, bases, and more. Limited time, only at Sleep Number or sleepnumber.com. When we return on America in the Morning, Ilhan Omar's attacker charged after these messages. We're back on America in the Morning. A foot of snow could be realized in some areas along the Great Lakes. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
A highly localized lake effect snow event grows increasingly likely around the Chicago area through tomorrow as the wind turns to the northeast for a time, right off Lake Michigan, leading to snow showers developing today. Localized intense bands of lake effect snow are expected to become an issue from Chicago into northwestern Indiana, and that's where the most persistent bands are likely to set up into tomorrow as the wind settles on a more northwesterly direction, driving snow into areas just downwind of the lake. Through tomorrow night, a general 1 to 3 inches of snow is expected from coastal far southeastern Wisconsin into the north side of Lafayette, Indiana, and northward into the western shores of lower Michigan. However, a zone with the highest likelihood for intense snow bands covers places just east of Gary, Indiana, and into Michigan City, where totals of up to 6 to 12 inches are expected, depending on the exact placement and duration of the heaviest bands. Snow also fills in from southern Kentucky to northern and western North Carolina as a winter storm starts to take shape. This storm will eventually bring strong winds to the mid-Atlantic and northeast through the weekend as it quickly intensifies, but today's snow spreads into northeastern Tennessee as well. Major snowfall of 6 to 12 inches appears likely from the southern Virginia-West Virginia border to the Tennessee-North Carolina border, with a separate such zone from central North Carolina into northern parts of the Outer Banks. Elsewhere, there may still be some snow showers off Lake Ontario today, rain showers in and around northern Idaho, and steady rain in both western Washington and Oregon, with steady snow for Nebraska and into southern South Dakota. In Dallas, it's a cooler day today with sun, the high 50. For Charleston, West Virginia, expect clouds, cold conditions, and a bit of snow, high 24. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Simply search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. Charges have been filed and the FBI continues to investigate the attack against Congresswoman Ilhan Omar at a Minneapolis Town Hall. Correspondent Haya Panjwani has the latest.
The man who squirted vinegar on a U.S. representative has been charged. The Justice Department has charged a man who squirted apple cider vinegar on Democratic U.S. Representative Ilhan Omar at an event in Minneapolis. The man arrested for the attack, Anthony Kazmierczak, faces a charge of forcibly assaulting, opposing, impeding, and intimidating Omar. That's according to court papers filed in federal court and made public.
Here's the reality that people like this ugly man don't understand. We are Minnesota strong. And we will stay resilient in the face of whatever they might throw.
An affidavit says authorities determined the substance was water and apple cider vinegar. Kazmierczak has a criminal history and has made online posts supportive of President Donald Trump. I'm Haya Panjwani.
Officials with the Fulton County, Georgia Elections Department says it's unclear as to why the FBI executed a search warrant and seized records tied to the 2020 presidential election. With more on the investigation, here's correspondent Clayton Neville.
Fulton County, Georgia has been the focus of President Trump's unproven claims of election fraud since his 2020 loss to now former President Joe Biden.
Fulton County has been targeted for years because I stood up to Donald Trump's big lie.
Fulton County Chairman Rob Pitts told reporters this week that he was clear with President Trump from the beginning.
I told him and others to stay the hell out of Fulton County. I meant it then, and I mean it today.
President Trump has insisted that his loss in Fulton County cost him victory in Georgia in 2020 and ultimately the overall election. This week, FBI agents executed a search warrant and seized hundreds of documents related to the 2020 election. Fulton County Election Board Chair Sherry Allen.
Even if we were surprised, we were able to efficiently comply, to discuss, and to make sure that what they were requesting, we complied with.
An FBI Co-Deputy Director Andrew Bailey and U.S. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard were seen on site. It's not clear yet, though, as to why. I'm Clayton Neville.
When we return on America in the Morning, Wall Street shares climb for Apple gatekeeper to AI after these messages. President Trump is expected to announce his choice to replace Jerome Powell as chair of the Federal Reserve and is expected to select Kevin Warsh, a former Fed official, for the job. Trump has repeatedly said he would pick a Fed chair who supported cutting interest rates. Here's Friday Business with CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street this morning will open after a mixed day for stocks yesterday. Gold closed at its 10th record high of the year. Software stocks tanked. Microsoft, its shares fell 10% for its worst day in nearly 6 years yesterday. Investors this morning waiting for Exxon and Chevron to report quarterly results. Apple shares were higher in after-hours trading last night. The company out with strong results and surprisingly strong iPhone sales in China.
In the end, they are the gateway for every one of these AI apps and products and services. They're getting paid on anyone that wants to work with consumers via the iOS ecosystem. They're sitting there like the world's gatekeeper to the wealthiest consumers all over the world. They're going to work with Google. It's a partner they've worked with for 20 years. And quite frankly, I don't know when the Siri upgrade will come. The street doesn't seem to be as worried about that.
Ritholtz Wealth's Josh Brown on CNBC. Crude oil up at its highest since last September. Oil has been rising since President Trump said he's sending an armada to Iran. Here's CNBC's Brian Sullivan.
We interviewed former Biden advisor Amos Hochstein, and I asked him a very direct question. Does he think the United States will strike Iran sometime soon?
I think it is more likely than not. They're saying we will shoot missiles at anything that moves in the region if we're attacked. When you start talking that kind of rhetoric, that starts getting very dangerous for energy flows from that region in a way that we haven't seen in many decades.
Now, Hochstein is incredibly well connected. He was basically the energy czar of the previous administration. And Hochstein did add that if Iran can make some kind of last-minute deal around its nuclear program, there's a chance no strike on Iran will happen.
AAA, meantime, says prices at the pump have been holding. The national average for a gallon of regular up only 2 cents a gallon from last week, sitting at $2.88. Tesla giving up on 2 of its electric vehicle models, with CEO Elon Musk turning toward building robots. CNBC's Carl Quintanilla with Hague Partners John Murphy on CNBC.
This pivot away from autos and a great recognition that the Chinese EV manufacturers are the name of the game in mass market globally, and he's not going to be able to compete against them. I really applaud them for canceling the S and X and really taking some really hard steps and moving in this direction quickly.
On today's watch list, we get earnings from American Express, Verizon, and Colgate-Palmolive. New in theaters, Disney's horror thriller Send Help and Black Bear's thriller Shelter.
When we return on America in the Morning, sheriff's deputy sentenced to prison after these messages. America in the Morning continues. An ex-Illinois sheriff's deputy who shot and killed a woman in her own home is heading to prison. Correspondent Donna Warder reports.
Former Illinois Sheriff's Deputy Sean Grayson has been sentenced to 20 years in prison for shooting and killing Sonia Massey, a woman with mental health issues who had called 911 to report a possible prowler outside her Springfield, Illinois home in July 2024. According to body camera footage, Grayson and another sheriff's deputy searched Massey's yard before meeting her at the door and entering her home. Massey seemed confused. Grayson noticed a pot on the stove and told the other deputy to move it. But Massey went to the stove, retrieved the pot, and teased Grayson for moving away from hot steaming water. That's when things escalated, and Grayson ordered Massey to drop the pot. She set it down, ducked behind a kitchen counter, and appeared to pick up the pot again. That's when Grayson opened fire on the 36-year-old woman, shooting her in the face. He testified he feared Massey would scald him. A jury convicted him of second-degree murder. I'm Donna Warder.
A man from Russia who attacked a woman in London was apprehended thanks to a call from the United States that came from the youngest son of President Trump. Correspondent Karen Shamas explains.
A Russian man has been convicted in a London court of beating a woman in a crime reported by Baron Trump. The crime was in London. The suspect was Russian, and the witness who saw the beating on a video call was in the US and happened to be the youngest son of President Donald Trump. Baron Trump called London police more than a year ago after witnessing a man assaulting his friend during a short video call. Matvey Rumyantsev was convicted Wednesday of assault with bodily harm, but acquitted of rape and choking charges. Justice Benathan advised jurors before they began deliberating to treat Baron Trump's recorded accounts with caution because he hadn't testified and thus had not been subjected to cross-examination. Karen Shamas, London.
America in the Morning for Friday, January 30th, 2026 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
Senate Democrats have blocked a government funding package.
Enough is enough.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Deployment of federal troops to several U.S. cities cost taxpayers about $496 million. Donna Warder, Washington.
Many Americans anticipating round 2 of a heavy dose of winter weather. I'm Clayton Neville.
Authorities say a man claiming to be an FBI agent told officers he had a court order to release Luigi Mangione. I'm Haya Panjwani.
Major Musk mashup may be in the works. I'm the new old tech guy, Chuck Palm.
Jason Statham punches his way onto the big screen with another action movie. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. We're back. This is America in the Morning. Forecasters watching another weekend storm shaping up. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
An eventual nor'easter takes shape today just to the south and east of the Ohio River, with snow developing over mainly southern Kentucky and West Virginia and into western Virginia. The storm is likely to grow rather complex over the weekend and rapidly intensify, bringing strong wind that may contribute to coastal flooding and beach erosion for some, especially into southeastern New England and the Outer Banks of North Carolina, where the strongest winds are likely through late in the weekend. For today, though, the snow should make it as far to the east as central Virginia and as far to the south as northwestern North Carolina. A large swath of significant snow in the 6 to 12-inch range is expected through the weekend from central North Carolina right through the coast, with similar totals in the high ground from the border with Tennessee northward into southern West Virginia. But AccuWeather winter weather experts say that snow of at least 1 to 3 inches could extend as far as south-central South Carolina to the east side of Nashville and north and east through the Jersey Shore, eastern Long Island, even Portland and Bangor, Maine, with another zone of 6 to 12 inches of snow rather likely toward Cape Cod. Elsewhere, there could be some showers over southeast Florida. That's rain showers, of course, with snow showers for parts of western New York and northern Michigan. Watch for flurries for northern and central Illinois, with some steadier snow from southwestern South Dakota to north-central Kansas. The Northwest has another round of off-and-on rain in store for today, with the latest push of Pacific moisture in a string of storms favoring western Washington and Oregon today, as the precipitation again turns more showery for areas to the east from northeastern Washington through far northwestern parts of Montana. However, the rest of the West looks rather dry today. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Simply search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. Thursday morning on Capitol Hill, talk of a government shutdown was inevitable. However, by Thursday evening, enough progress was made that Senate Democrats said they struck a deal, an agreement to move forward with a package of bills to avert a partial closure of the government. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports both sides are moving back from the cliff after Democrats first blocked the funding package, but the clock is still ticking.
Senate Democrats have blocked a government funding package as talks continue over averting a government shutdown.
Enough is enough.
Leader Chuck Schumer and Democrats voted to block a wide-ranging funding bill over demands the Trump administration rein in ICE. A partial shutdown looms this weekend if the funding is not approved.
It includes, for example, funding for FEMA. We've just gone through a horrific storm that has caused a lot of damage, and FEMA is very important. It includes funding for TSA.
Democrats want Homeland Security Department money separated from the rest of the legislation.
Americans, by and large, support law enforcement. I do. And most people support border security. I do as well. But Americans do not support ICE terrorizing our streets, operating outside the law, killing American citizens. The madness and violence must end.
To Schumer,
this is a moment of truth for the United States of America.
Shortly before the vote,
hopefully we won't have a shutdown. We're working on that right now. I think we're getting close. The Democrats, I don't believe, want to see it either. So we'll work in a very bipartisan way. I believe not to have a shutdown. We don't want a shutdown.
President Trump said talks continue with Democrats to avert what would be a second shutdown in 2 months.
Productive talks are ongoing, and I urge my Democrat colleagues to continue their engagement and find a path forward that will avoid a needless shutdown and not jeopardize full funding for key agencies like FEMA and the Coast Guard.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
One reason both Democrats and Republicans are looking closer at ICE deployments is the overall cost. Correspondent Donna Warder reports on what President Trump's deployment of federal troops to U.S. cities is costing the taxpayer, and comes as Senator Susan Collins says in her state of Maine, ICE is ending large-scale operations.
New data from the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office says that President Donald Trump's deployment of federal troops to several U.S. cities cost taxpayers about $496 million through the end of December. Trump said that sending in National Guard troops and active duty Marines was part of an effort to combat crime and support local law enforcement. Critics say the deployments undermine state and local authority and exceed Trump's authority under the Constitution. It estimates the cost of sending federal troops to Chicago, Memphis, Portland, Oregon, and Los Angeles, and does not include the December deployment to New Orleans. The CBO says continued deployments to those cities will cost about $93 million per month, and the deployments to other U.S. cities in 2026 would cost $18 million to $21 million per month for each city. Senator Susan Collins of Maine says following several direct communications with Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, urging her to get ICE to reconsider its approach to immigration enforcement in the state, immigration officials have ended their enhanced operations in Maine. The Republican senator's announcement comes more than a week after immigration officers began an ICE operation dubbed Catch of the Day, which federal officials say netted about 50 people the first day. Donna Warder, Washington.
A major winter storm is expected this weekend for areas still digging out from last weekend's ice and snow event. With the latest on the system, here's correspondent Clayton Neville.
Round 2 of an Arctic blast impacting much of the country, especially parts of the East Coast. The Carolinas into Virginia expected to have heavy snow, high wind with localized blizzard conditions and major coastal flooding. Weather experts believe storm force winds will collide with astronomical high tide, potentially creating major flooding from the Outer Banks to the Virginia Capes.
It looks like it's going to be snow, not ice this time. That's a good thing, but it's still going to have real impacts on our lives.
North Carolina Governor Josh Stein met with state road crews ahead of the expected heavy dose of winter weather and encouraged North Carolinians to stay off the roads.
You're going to make their jobs a whole lot easier, a whole lot safer.
A nor'easter's headed two parts of the Northeast, to include Philadelphia, which has been dumped with snow in recent days. Residents spoke with NBC 10 about the city's ability to handle the heavy snowfall.
I've lived here over 25 years. This is the first time since I've moved here that I've seen the city do the corners, which is phenomenal because just like every other part of the city, parking is not real good.
I think that I'm really impressed that the city has this capacity. 3 days later, I'm taking my daughter to school. I'm getting my groceries.
It's not the snow necessarily with this weekend's weather that's expected to be the major issue. Instead, it's the wind and the cold that are likely to be the biggest threats. The storm's on track to arrive to the Northeast into Sunday with impacts along the Jersey Shore and in New York. Parts of the South still thawing from a multi-day ice storm, meanwhile, that canceled school for 4 days in the Dallas area. But this weekend will see sub-freezing temperatures across much of the region again, closing out a bitter cold end to January and kicking off a frigid start to February. I'm Clayton Neville.
Among the stories we're covering next, impersonating an FBI officer and Elon Musk's latest business deal. America in the Morning, back after these messages. A man was charged Thursday with impersonating an FBI agent after he showed up at a federal prison in New York City attempting to release Luigi Mangione from jail. Correspondent Haya Panjwani has details.
Authorities say a man claiming to be an FBI agent showed up to a federal jail in New York City and told officers he had a court order to release Luigi Mangione. The man was arrested and charged with impersonating an FBI agent in a foiled bid to free Mangione from the Metropolitan Detention Center. That's where Mangione is being held, awaiting state and federal murder trials in the killing of the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson. A criminal complaint filed against 36-year-old Mark Anderson did not identify the person that he attempted to free, but a law enforcement official familiar with the matter confirmed it was Mangione. The official was not authorized to speak publicly on the matter. I'm Haya Panjwani.
Senator Amy Klobuchar has made it official, becoming both the Democrat candidate and frontrunner to replace Tim Walz as governor of Minnesota in the November election. Correspondent Marissa Duhaney reports.
Minnesota, we've been through a lot.
Democratic U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar says she's running for governor of Minnesota. Klobuchar's decision gives Democrats a high-profile candidate and proven statewide winner as their party tries to hold on to the office occupied by Governor Tim Walz. Walz abandoned his campaign for a third term earlier this month amid criticism over mismanagement of taxpayer funding for child care programs. Klobuchar announced her candidacy in a video message posted Thursday.
These times call for leaders who can stand up and not be rubber stamps of this administration.
Klobuchar has been one of the loudest Trump critics, most recently over the immigration enforcement effort that has prompted massive protests. The Minnesota contest is expected to test Trump's law and order approach against Democrats' criticisms of his administration's tactics.
Correspondent Marissa Duhaney. President Trump has announced he's suing two government agencies for $10 billion, alleging that they failed to take necessary steps to prevent a former IRS employee from improperly disclosing his tax returns. The lawsuit says Trump is suing the IRS and the Treasury Department. Charles Littlejohn was sent to prison in 2024 after pleading guilty to leaking the tax records to the New York Times. Those records showed that Trump had paid only $750 in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017. Recent trade talks between China and Canada did not go over well at the White House, where President Trump threatened larger tariffs against Canadian imports. Now comes word another top U.S. ally has met with Chinese President Xi Jinping and discussed increasing trade. Correspondent Karen Shamas reports on warming relations between China and the UK.
Britain's Prime Minister Keir Starmer has met with Chinese leader Xi Jinping in Beijing, as both leaders call for a comprehensive strategic partnership to deepen ties amid global uncertainty. It was the first visit by a British Prime Minister in 8 years. The two leaders met amid strained relations between the two nations. The cause of those strains? British allegations of Chinese spying and the political situation in Hong Kong. Nevertheless, after their meeting, Starmer said the leaders had made really good progress on issues including slashing Chinese tariffs on Scotch whisky and introducing visa-free travel for British visitors. The British Prime Minister called it
a very good, constructive meeting with real outcomes, and that's very much in our national interest.
Xi appeared to acknowledge the criticism that Starmer has faced for reaching out to China despite tensions. The Chinese leader told a news conference, "Good things often come with difficulties." The visit includes over 50 business executives seeking opportunities in China. Karen Shamas, London.
Elon Musk is behind a merger that could create a mega tech monster. The new old tech guy, Chuck Palm, has the story.
Big buzz coming out of the tech world today for Elon Musk's owned companies. According to Reuters and Bloomberg, SpaceX and xAI are in preliminary talks for a possible merger and maybe even a tie-up with Tesla. These conversations comes as SpaceX eyes a blockbuster initial public offering later this year, potentially valuing the private giant north of $1 trillion after recent insider deals pegged it around $800 billion. And even more insiders point to Musk's vision of launching massive AI data centers into orbit powered by Starlink and possibly Tesla's energy storage tech. xAI shares would swap for SpaceX stock in a 1-to-1 scenario, and a new corporate entities popped up in Nevada just last week to keep these options open. No deals are done and no official comments from those companies yet, but these are based on sources very close to the matter. If any of this consolidates, it could supercharge Musk's push to blend space, AI, and sustainable energy on a scale never seen before. Bitcoin and Ethereum dropped nearly 6 points yesterday, with Bitcoin at 84,500 and Ethereum at 2,820. Find my new video podcast wrap-up at thenewOldTechGuy.com. I'm Chuck Palm.
Here's Friday Sports with John Stolnis.
There is a new all-time scoring leader for an American-born player in the NHL.
Going by Kane. Kane has it. DeBrincat. Shot! Score! There it is! History in Detroit!
Sound courtesy of ESPN. With that assist, Detroit Red Wings star Patrick Kane passed Mike Modano with his 1,375th point in the Red Wings 4-3 shootout loss to the Washington Capitals last night. Kane won 3 Stanley Cups with the Chicago Blackhawks from 2010 to 2015. One of the fastest runners in the world was arrested on Thursday for being a little too fast in her car. Olympic gold medalist Sha'Carri Richardson was pulled over, allegedly doing 104 miles an hour on a parkway just outside of Orlando. Police say she was also driving recklessly. The 25-year-old is one of the fastest women in the world, winning a silver in the 100 meters at the 2024 Paris Olympics and gold in the 4x100 relay. But trouble has followed Richardson. She publicly apologized to her boyfriend last year after being arrested on a 4th-degree domestic violence charge for allegedly assaulting him at a Seattle airport. And with the Super Bowl a little over a week away, this could be the most heavily bet game in U.S. history. About $1.76 billion is expected to be bet on Super Bowl 60. That would be a 27% increase over last year. Those numbers according to the American Gaming Association. I'm John Stolnis.
How animals and pets are dealing with the Arctic blast when America in the Morning continues after these messages. There's a few movies premiering this weekend. One of those is the documentary about the First Lady entitled Melania, which made news after distributors in South Africa announced they would not allow the movie to be shown. There's also a tough guy film that's expected to be a top movie destination. Kevin Carr has a sneak peek at Shelter.
It doesn't quite feel like January until we have a new Jason Statham movie in theaters.
Mason isn't just an assassin. He was one of the first of elite operatives.
Then what happened?
Shelter is the latest Statham actioner in which he plays a rugged assassin who has left the business.
We have a retinal match. Send them.
When he's ID'd by his former handler at MI6, he goes on the run with an orphan girl he's been taking care of.
Alpha team, come in. They're all gone.
Shelter dips into the same bag of tricks we've seen in Statham films before, and those tricks tend to work because the filmmakers know it's just a disposable off-season action movie.
You need to throw everything you've got at him.
Statham still got the grit for the fight scenes, but he also gets some more tender moments too, as a surrogate father figure.
I need a way out for her. She's just a kid who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Come on!
The film runs a bit slow at times, but it manages a passable action ride with some high-tech gadgetry as well.
His profile's been altered.
Our target is not who we thought. I want him taken in alive.
Shelter is very familiar, especially if you've seen enough direct-to-video and January action movies. But it knows its place, and that makes it work.
Most people just say thank you.
Don't ever come up here again.
Shelter gets 3 Cockney accents out of 5. I'm Kevin Carr, and that's the way I see it.
The Arctic cold blast that reached as far as New Orleans and South Florida has been especially tough on pets and animals. From Michigan to New Jersey and Mississippi, there have been stories of dogs that spent days out in the cold but were found safe or rescued. Correspondent Lisa Dwyer reports on one lucky calf who was born in sub-freezing temperatures but survived thanks to a Kentucky family.
A newborn calf, later named Sally, born in frigid temperatures in Kentucky, has now become a bit famous after her family posted some cute photos of Sally. After losing a calf last winter, Macy Sorrell says the family brought Sally inside.
She was frozen. Her umbilical cord looked like a popsicle.
The family then got to work.
The afterbirth was still on her, so I had to wipe all that off and took a blow dryer and warmed her up, and got her all fluffed out.
All fluffed and dried, Sally snuggled in with the family's 2 young children on the couch. Macy says while it's not unusual to bring livestock in if needed, this one was special.
You see a cow in the house, that's nothing special. But whenever it's up on the couch cuddling, your 3-year-old, so it puts a smile on your face.
As for Sally's future,
she's a permanent resident.
I'm Lisa Dwyer.
America in the Morning for Friday, January 30th, 2026 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.